Welcome into Sports Talk at the stadium, Sanford Stadium, Athens, Georgia, where tonight the Georgia Bulldogs beat down the South Carolina Gamecocks 52-20. 20 years ago in this stadium, Steve Spurrier brought his Florida Gators in, and they were a great ball team. They went undefeated in the SEC that season, and he scored 52 points on Georgia. Remember, the stadium in Jacksonville was going through renovation, so for a couple of years, Georgia and Florida played home and home. So they come in here, and Spurrier puts 52 on the Bulldogs. He kind of talked brashingly about it back then because that's the way he was, and he had a great football program. I'm sure Georgia fans never forgot that, and they loved every point that went up on the scoreboard tonight for their Bulldogs, and it's pretty ironic that the scoreboard stopped at 52, and the Gamecocks could do nothing about it. The idea that the defense was getting better was blown up tonight. So many issues defensively for the Gamecocks. No pass rush, no coverage, no ability to stop the run, very poor tackling, and it goes on and on and on. So John Hoke and the defensive staff, they have a lot of work to do just to make this defense respectable. If they can just get back to respectable, that'd be a step forward. Good is way on down the road. Do they have the players to get it done? They've got to coach the players they've got. The scheme is what it is. They've got to put the players they've got in the best position to try to win, and that's what they'll try and do moving forward to Central Florida next Saturday in Columbia. Really, this game was still relatively in hand late in the second quarter. The Gamecocks matched an early field goal by Georgia with a personal best by Elliott Fry, 51 yards. Well, that came at the end of the half, but earlier he kicked a field goal to make it 3-3, and then the Gamecocks were keeping in touch with Georgia in the first half, and it was just a touchdown difference in the teams. It was a 10-3 game, and then 17-10 with 2:17 to go in the half. But then Georgia went right down the field after the Gamecocks scored to go up 24-10. South Carolina answered with a long kickoff return by Sean Carson. Then they got the 51-yard field goal. So it was 24-13, and even though Georgia had 300-plus yards of offense and their quarterback, Grayson Lambert, was on fire, the Gamecocks would go into halftime feeling like they still maybe had a chance to do something in the second half. Remember, their defense had played great football in the second halves of the first two games of the season, not allowing a point in those second halves. Not the case here tonight. Georgia came out, first possession of the second half, boom, touchdown. Gamecocks throw an interception on their first possession. Georgia, boom, touchdown. And for all intents and purposes, the game was over by then. It was a 38-13 score, and it was just a matter of how much Georgia was going to score. Grayson Lambert kind of overlooked coming into this one, not anymore. He sets an NCAA record by completing 24 of 25 passes. That's 96%. That's the record. He breaks the record that was set by T. Martin against the Gamecocks. I think that was back in 1996, and was later tied by Geno Smith when he was at West Virginia in 2012 against Kansas. I think that was like 23 of 24. And so Lambert breaks that tonight. Kind of makes you forget about their running back, Nick Chubb, who had you could say, a quiet 159 yards and 2 touchdowns on the night. I guess you can say that because he was definitely overshadowed by the quarterback who completed his last 20 passes in a row. His last completion of the game came midway through the first quarter, and then he reeled off 20 consecutive completions. But I mean, he was just sitting back in the pocket and picking the Gamecocks apart. There was no pressure on him. He never felt uncomfortable in the pocket. So here was a few other offensive items for Georgia in this game. They only reached third down 4 times. They only had 3 plays for negative losses the entire game. They had 10 receptions of 15 yards or more. And so it was just a complete domination tonight by the Georgia offense against a outmatched South Carolina defense. So the Gamecocks fall to 0-2 in SEC play, and they obviously have a lot of work to do for them. atmosphere around the football program right now is probably the lowest it's been in the Spurrier era. Now, he hasn't had great seasons every year at South Carolina, but in his earlier years, there was always reason for hope and the idea that he was going to build something. Uh, and he brought in some great players and got it going in a big way, as we all know, at South Carolina. Right now, I'd have to say that the feeling is a very little hope that this season could turn into a complete disaster. When you look at the rest of the schedule, where do you see victories? Well, Central Florida next week, the Citadel the weekend before Clemson, Vanderbilt. That's about it. That's about it this particular time on the schedule. There's really nobody else outside of Vanderbilt in the SEC that you would say the Gamecocks could line up in their current state. And, of course, you say the same thing about Clemson. So we'll see what direction the Gamecocks move in from here. And if they can bow their neck and find some pride and find some players. I will say this, Lorenzo Nunez did what he could when he was in there. Of course, a very limited package for the freshman quarterback, but he displayed his athletic skills. He ran the ball 10 times for 76 yards. That led the Gamecocks, and he was also 4 of 5 for 18 yards. So it will still be Orth and Nunez competing during the week, but I've got to believe, Perry Orth, you could just see how limited his skills are with his performance tonight. He threw the ball where he was supposed to try to throw it, but he doesn't have those playmakers to go up and catch the ball, and he doesn't have the ability to extend plays and to turn broken plays into runs and things of that nature. The one thing that you do get with the freshman is his legs and the ability to make something happen. And the Gamecocks did a few good things running the football, especially when they ran the option a couple of times, and that's what he can do. The Gamecocks did run the ball for 174 yards tonight. Ordinarily, they would take that and feel pretty good about it, but they only threw the ball for 84 yards, 10 of 22. So back to the drawing board for South Carolina, Florida. You can hear what's the game on our website, sportstalksc.com. Tomorrow we'll have Spurrier's Sunday teleconference for you. And on Monday, we'll talk all about it, 6:06 on Sports Talk. Look forward to seeing you then. That'll do it. Phil Kornblut from Sanford Stadium in Athens.